Hey, welcome to the Because Business is Personal podcast, the podcast where empathy meets marketing strategy. I'm your host, Mike Caldwell, but I'm also known as the Marketing Medic. Now, the reason for that is because before becoming a marketing strategist, I actually worked as a paramedic for 12 years. And it was during that time that I realized how important it was to truly understand the problems your patient was facing before you started providing treatment. And it's this same understanding, this same empathy is just as crucial when it comes to understanding our prospects and making sales. And that's why in each episode, we'll dissect the art of empathic marketing, exploring how top professionals infuse empathy into their strategies to build stronger relationships, boost their sales, and make a lasting impact. So buckle up and prepare to turn up the dial on your marketing effectiveness. As we gear up to dive deeper into the realm of empathic marketing, I'd like to share a couple of special offers with you. First, you can get a free copy of my international best-selling book, Empathic Marketing. You only need to cover the cost of shipping. Reading this will provide you with a much more in-depth understanding of the empathy-based marketing approach that we explore in this show. Next, I'm offering a 50% discount on a transformative 30-minute gap analysis session with me. During the session, we'll identify the hurdles in your marketing efforts, and together we'll develop an actionable roadmap aimed at winning you more clients and making you more sales. Just visit my website, www.becausebusinessispersonal.com to grab your book, or use coupon code PODCAST to take advantage of my gap analysis offer. So why wait? Let's start turbocharging your marketing strategy today. Now, let's get started with our episode. Hey everybody, I'm here today with Jason Hornung. Jason is known as the king of Facebook ads, the GOAT of Facebook ads, but today he's going to tell us his sort of secret as to why, even though he's really good at Facebook ads, it's not for the reasons that most of us probably think. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike. Appreciate it.
So let's just dive right. Well, actually, no, what I want to do is because it's my whole thing is about empathic marketing. I like to get to know our guests on a personal level first. And man, you've got like, I probably shouldn't have sprung this on you, but you've got one heck of a backstory. Like what sort of personal stuff would you be comfortable sharing with us about your life, just so we get to know Jason, the non-Facebook guy, better?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, so I write this in my bio. It's, I think my life really kind of reads like the warning label from an after-school special, right? Like these are all the things that you shouldn't do if you want to have a good life. Right? So, like, I've been through like every kind of weird experience that anybody can imagine, right? Like my childhood was terrible. My parents were like, drug addict, alcoholics that were very rarely around, divorced when I was young. So I spent most of my childhood like basically raising myself. And then I got into a situation where I actually had a teenage pregnancy myself, got my first girlfriend pregnant when I was 16. And so I had my first kid when I was 17. So I've been a father since before I was even an adult. And then, like raising a kid, I went off to college, ended up dropping out after 2 years to be able to raise my kid and let my girlfriend, who ended up being my wife, go to school. So she finished. And then we got married, had a couple more kids, struggled as I was building an insurance business. And I was building this thing off of what they taught me to do with marketing, which was to cold call people and knock on doors. And so for 2 years, I built this business making my 300 cold calls a day. And I would cold walk into 15 businesses a week and just ask to see the business owner and then try chatting them up and see if they'd quote me their insurance. And I had done pretty well according to like the accolades that they give you, like I won all the life insurance awards and the property and casualty awards and the commercial insurance lines awards. But I was making like $4,000 a month. and I had 3 young kids at home and a wife, and I had to work like, 70 plus hours a week in order to do this. I'm like working 10 to 15 hour days, 6 days a week. Um, and so my personal life was just terrible, like awful. It was just awful. And so, I couldn't do it anymore. I was burned the fuck out after 2 years of that. And so it's like what led me into Google searching. I realized there's just got to be a better way. And the way that has to be better is I need to get people coming to me, right? So the way I thought about that in my mind was just attraction marketing was the term that came up. So I started Googling attraction marketing, and that landed me on this page for a book by Dan Kennedy called The Ultimate Sales Letter. And so I bought that book.
Yep.
And I read it, and Dan convinced me that writing words was going to be the key to me controlling my income, because I didn't have a college degree. And there's a whole nother story on how I ended up getting into this insurance agency like that. I could go on for another hour on alone. But, without this college degree, I happened to, be in sales, and I got recruited into insurance. And I shouldn't even have had the job, right? Like they pulled a whole bunch of strings to get it for me, right? and so I just get convinced that writing words is going to be the key to me controlling my income. So I go down this whole path of following Dan's advice on writing sales letters to try to get leads coming in, so I don't have to be cold calling people no more, right? And I go through the whole process, send out this letter. I spent a ton of money. Spent me, for me at the time, it was over $1,000 to mail out this first piece. You got to get all these different, print the letters. You got to pay for postage. You got to envelope these things, buy mailing lists. It's crazy, right? And the thing didn't work at all. But I'm pretty hard headed, and so I just was like, I'm just gonna keep going. And I figured it was something that I did wrong. I didn't think it was the letter that didn't work. It was like, I must have done something wrong. I need to do better. Right. So I did it. I did it again. No results. And again, and again, and again, until the 6th try. I sent out a letter. And what I would do every time I'd send out the letter is I'd sit by the phone for like 2 or 3 days waiting for that thing to see if it would start ringing. Right. And then usually it was like, disappointment, like the 2 worst days of my life. Go home and drink, and finally, on this one, phone starts ringing. Phone rings off the hook. Everybody that's calling is like homeowners too. And I was like typically working with renters and low level prospects from these mailing lists, cold calling lists I was working on. And so these people are calling me. They're like, yeah, Jason, I got this big house over here in this neighborhood, and I got 3-4 cars, and I need an umbrella policy, and I want to get some life insurance. They wouldn't even say that, right? Like with the other people, I'd be like, I'd have to like squeeze their arm just to even talk about it, So, it was crazy, and then they just wanted to give me everything, right? And it was like mind blown, and so that was what I just kind of expanded upon that, and I grew my insurance business, writing letters, and this was like 2005. All right. Okay. And so I did that for like a year, and I got on Dan Kennedy's newsletter. And in his newsletter, he started featuring this dude named Corey Rudel. And you may not have heard his name. Anybody that knows anything about internet marketing, Corey Rudel founded it. He basically invented internet marketing. Right. And so Dan was featuring him, talking about how you can advertise on the internet. And I'm like, woo! I don't have to sit in it. And Corey's talking about how you can get like these penny clicks and stuff like that. And it's way better than sending out direct mail because it's so much cheaper and you can target and all this shit. And so then I was like, well, I got to figure this out. And the only thing that I could think of was, well, I mean, maybe I can make these sales letters that I'm writing, I can make a web page, because that was how Corey in the newsletter was talking about doing it, right? So I had to teach myself basic HTML. That was like the next step, because there was no thing like ClickFunnels or any of that shit. It wasn't even WordPress at the time, right? So I had to teach myself basic HTML, and then I would write my sales letters on web pages. And then I went to Google Ads. It was actually called Overture at the time. So that's how old this was. Yeah, this was before they even became Google Ads. I would run ads to these sales letters just like I would, and I would target people in the local area, and then they just bam, 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 way cheaper leads are just flooding in, blew up my insurance business. Fast forward a few years, I had actually moved from Minnesota where I was at, and I had taken over another insurance agency, and I'm doing all the things I'm doing. They find out about it. They didn't like it. And so they labeled me as like a maverick, like I'm doing things outside of of the norm, you know what I mean? Because I wasn't doing all the marketing stuff they taught you, right? And so they didn't like that, and they started like coming down on me. They like filed a complaint with the National Association of Securities Advisors on me, which suspended my securities license. They found I didn't do anything wrong, by the way. But because of all this stuff, that company soured me, and I was like, well, screw this. I'm going to go market online full time. And I like walked away from my insurance business. And that was basically how I got into this place where I was marketing online full time, started taking on clients. Fast forward to 2013, Facebook ads comes on the scene. I start applying what I'm known have been doing to Facebook ads. That blows up. I built this course around what I'm doing. That blows up. And that's how I got to be known as the Facebook guy and the Facebook gang, and, like whatever people like to say. I don't call myself any of those things unless I'm joking about it. You know what I mean? But that's how I got known about that. But really, if you kind of go all the way back to all that, and this is what I've been trying to really change my perception in the marketplace now, is because I'm not a Facebook ads guy. What I really am is a person who understands people, and I understand how to evaluate a product that actually works, right? I want to make sure I qualify that, because people will come to me with brand new things, right? I can make things do really well for products that are already proven, right? And they already work, and I can find the unique thing in there, and I can connect that unique thing to the unique emotion that is inside the market right now, and channel that emotion onto that unique thing inside of the product or service as the fulfillment of this emotional desire that people have, right? And I have a better understanding of that, and I can do it faster and easier than I think anybody on the planet. I can ask a few questions, look at a couple of things, and within 30 minutes, I can have a complete selling narrative with a big hook or a big idea, a marketing hook that does all these things I just talked about, and can, in some cases, more than 10x sales by just, changing some of this messaging that we do on the front end into an existing process, right? Sometimes by even changing just a headline landing page, we're able to, achieve these kinds of results with people's ads and their marketing funnels. And like I said, it has nothing to do with Facebook ads. The medium doesn't matter. Facebook ads, it just happened to be that it was the right time, right place for that medium with the skill set that I have, right? And that was the media that I used at that time and continue to use as a way to achieve these kinds of results for people. Now, the ability to achieve those results over the years has become harder and harder and harder for people since 2013. I mean, that was 10 years ago already now. Right. Facebook has changed a lot in that time, but at the end of the day, the thing that still matters is the message and the offer, right? And those are the two things that I've always studied and that I'm a master of, and that's how I'm able to still, to this day, get people the best results that they've ever seen with Facebook ads. But I don't do it just on Facebook ads either. We do Google, YouTube, TikTok, anywhere that you can buy ads. What I do and what I teach people applies to any of those platforms. And I have that kind of training available inside my membership site.
Cool. So I want to get into your methodology a little bit, but before we do that, nowadays everybody wants a quick win, right? Because you can funnel hack a funnel in 10 minutes. You're just one funnel away. It's so easy to make money online, right? Just anybody can do it. As long as you know a little bit more than somebody else, then you can just rake in the dough. Right?
Well, that's what the people shoveling the shit tell you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so from where you came from, like you say, you got knocked down a whole bunch of times. You had to send out 5 letters before at $1,000 a pop before one of them worked. So you said you had a hard head. Now, is that lost in today's businesses or entrepreneurs?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? The expectation. Now, this is one of the biggest problems I have with the internet marketing industry, and it has to do with the people that most of the people coming into this space or in this space, the people they idolize, right? A lot of them create these expectations that are completely wrong with their marketing because they highlight the unicorn scenarios, right? Like these fast wins, the big, huge results. And they make, in some cases, they can be from people that just come on the scene. Now, do that is because these people are masters of psychology like me, and they understand that the thing that sells is that big, fast, quick win because human beings are dumb, fucking lazy people. And what they're doing is they're purposefully using messaging, and they have proof to back it up because these unicorns happen, right? But what they do is they use this and extrapolate it out to use messaging to implicate to everyone that that's possible to them because they're also using the concept of hope, which is another highly powerful human emotion, to get you to buy their shit, right? And then the vast majority eat that fucking shit up, idolize these people while not getting the fucking result that they're promising anywhere remotely close. But they still eat it up, and then they keep buying more shit from them because these guys keep shoveling the fucking dream that they want to hear. Right?
Yeah, I call those guys hopium dealers. They're hopium dealers.
Exactly. Right?
They get you hooked, and then once you're hooked, then they got you.
Yeah, you know that whole one funnel away thing, right? Like I've written many posts about this particular phraseology, in particular because, like we were talking about before we started recording, the funnel doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't, right? Like you could use umpteen bajillion funnels, but if you got a shitty offer and bad messaging or one or the other, that funnel ain't going to work. And that's why all these people come, by the time they get to me, because I preach a message that people don't want to fucking hear. Most people don't, right? They don't want to hear this is hard. They don't want to hear that you got to make something unique. They want to hear that you can just copy and paste and fuck off your way into success, right? But that's not how it really works. And so, only the people that understand reality will resonate with me right away. Or after they've been kicked in the nuts a million times by buying the dream and spent half their life savings on it, will they finally buy into my messaging? And then they're reluctant to do what I want to do. And they don't even want to pay me the wages that I ask for, which is quite a bit less than what most of these clowns are doing with the dream, selling them the dream. They don't even want to pay that anymore because they're fucking out of money by that time. Right? it's the weirdest thing, dude. I hate it. But
I brought on a client a couple of weeks ago, and I was a little bit nervous because I knew what she needed. I knew I could serve her, and I do done for you services. But when I got on the call with her, she told me she had just bought a $10,000 certification program where she was going to learn how to do all this. She's got a full-time job. And you know how hard it is to learn to be a marketing expert. Like $10,000 doesn't matter what you spend. It's not going to happen unless you put in the hours. And I was like, oh man, she just spent all of that money. Like, can she afford me now? And again, I don't charge as much as these other guys, but she just dropped all that. And I'm like, it's gone. She's never going to get the value out of that. And so she ended up hiring me, and now we're 3 weeks in and we're almost ready to launch. But had she just done with her own stuff, oh my God, she'd be years away. It would never happen.
Yeah, and I see that kind of dumb behavior all the time. These people will buy these high ticket things because they get easily influenced by master marketers and sellers, right? They'll buy these things knowing full well that they can't fully implement it. Sometimes they're even in the mindset of, if I write this check, it just means that, and I buy this thing, it just means I'm entitled to a return of some other form of money, right, even if I don't do it all. So, and then they'll do these kinds of things where they'll buy coaching programs like that, and they'll have they'll have multiple coaching programs where they're trying to get advice from multiple people on different things at the same time, and they're working with a professional at the same time, and they're trying to make you do this, that, or the other, and then they're questioning you about these things that they're doing. It's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
I understand them, and the more I understand them, the more I just can't fucking get it. Right? So here's the thing. You can understand people, and you can play with it to your advantage, or you can play with it to their advantage. Right? And then you can advantage off of other people's advantage. That's the game that I play. It's not as profitable of a game. It's not. But at the end of the day, I live my life in 100% in integrity, right? And I see a lot. I know everybody in this industry. I know what happens behind doors. I know what's in those secret rooms. I ain't part of that.
I was working with a coaching client for a couple of years, and he was doing great. I helped him make over $3 million in 2 years, but then he decided to retire, and that's cool. But anyway, he was retired for 2 months, decided to come back to work. He asked if I wanted to return, and I was like, yeah, no, I don't think so. I was doing my own thing by then. So he hired somebody else, and when I talked, he's like, oh yeah, I got this new guy, and he's going to really help me because he knows some sort of loan, because he had a $24,000 program. He knows this loan shark guy. So the people who come into my program, if they can't afford it, they can get financed by this guy. And this guy's had some unicorns, some rock stars that have made a lot of money. But we know the reality in these coaching programs, the majority of people fail through no fault of my client, through no fault of the coach, right? And for my level of integrity, I'm like, so you're going to get your students to sign up with this loan shark, knowing full well that 80 to 90% of your people aren't going to ever be able to pay that loan.
Yeah. Because
I was like, how can you do that to some? He's going to destroy lives.
Yeah, because they don't care. They a lot of people don't care, or they don't think about that, right? The only thing that matters is I got to get my money.
Money. Yeah.
I'd rather get paid. I'd rather earn every dollar and feel good about that. I'm actually helping people in that exchange, than taking. Right? I'm not a taker. I'm a giver. I can't do that.
So let's do a $10,000 mastermind in the next 15 minutes. Okay.
Sure.
So so when you're starting a new campaign, what's the first thing you do to learn about your audience?
Well, place right now where I can get everything I need with a few questions from a customer, because I've worked in pretty much every niche market imaginable, and most of the people that come to me are going to fall into the, usually into the major niches, right? There's health, wealth, and finance, or health, wealth, and fitness. What health, wealth? Why am I getting that wrong right now? Anyways, there's 3 major markets, right?
I'm trying to.
I'm missing the other relationships, health, wealth, and relationships. Those are the 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I know the general avatars on both sides of those coins, right? And I know a lot of how to market to them already in general, right? So what I do when I bring on a client is we have an initial kickoff call, and I'll just grill them about the people that are buying from them already, right? Because like I said before, I'm only working with people that have proven offers, right? This is a lot harder when you're making something new. right? You can't do these kinds of things, right? And so like people that I'm talking to, they have buyers all the time, and they're possibly having phone conversations with them. They're getting emails into their customer support. They're having comments on their ads and stuff like that, and blog posts and things like that. So we have a lot of data points that we can reference. And the first question I always ask is, what are the people that are buying from you? How are they describing the problems that they want you to solve? Okay, because when I say it that way, how are they describing it? When they come to you and they say, "Hey, Mike, I need your help. This is what I need your help with." How are they saying that? Right? Because that allows us to, there's this concept called entering the conversation in the prospect's mind. That comes out of the Robert Collier letter book, which was written in the late 1800s. But it's a very common copywriting axiom. And the reason that that's important is because we want to be using the language in our advertising and our marketing to lead into our selling process with the language that people are using top of conscious, because that's how I can identify that we understand their issue. All right. And so that's absolutely crucial to success in advertising, is being able to create that identification that you understand their problem. And ideally, you want to be able to show that you understand it better than they do. And you do that by being really clear on what their problem is. Because some people aren't, and this all varies depending on the market and the product and everything like that. And this is why you had mentioned, when you came out here, I talk about awareness, because that level of awareness is of where they're at even with their own problem, right? Like people might just be aware that they've got an issue, but they're not even really sure of what's causing that issue, for example. But other times there's people that are really crystal clear on what's causing that issue, right? So if you're marketing a product to people that aren't really clear on what the issue is, you got to make them clear on what that issue is first, right? Before you tell them about the solution, because they're not ready to accept that there is a solution until they know what their problem clearly is, right? Now, other markets are already aware clearly of what their problem is. And so all you got to do is tell them about your solution. So what you do in your copy and your advertising is entirely informed by a deep understanding of your ideal customer, and particularly an awareness of understanding what their level of awareness is for their own for the problem that you solve, for the fact that there is a solution out there, right? And for the fact that your solution is the best. Okay, that's the sequence of thought we have to take people through, and we start with that conversation in their mind around how they're experiencing whatever problem it is that your product or service solves.
Yes, so that's the way I identify that now. There's two levels of understanding. There's first the experiential understanding, and that's what you just talked about. Level of awareness and level of sophistication. That's their experience, where they've been awareness of their problem. And then what have they heard? What is your competition saying? Like in the weight loss space, we've got a highly sophisticated audience, right? Like they've heard everything under the sun. Like so hard to come up with something new. I started working with a client a couple months ago, and he's a lawyer who sues financial advisors. That's all he does. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I haven't seen one ad for, hey, if you lost money with your financial advisor, we can get it back. Like it's that simple. I don't need a unique mechanism. I don't need a big idea, because there's no crowd in that marketplace. So, but again, if I was doing a weight loss thing, oh my gosh, then you got to have A-level copywriting skills.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And with the speaking the audience's language, I just got a 3x increase on conversions. And I knew my copy was good. I like talking about generating revenue. Like, let me help you generate revenue, right? And it wasn't converting. And then I said, let me help you make more sales. And guess what? Right? Like it means the same thing, but How many people have ever come to you and said, hey, Jason, I need to generate more revenue? Like, they don't say that. Like, hey, Jason, I need to make more sales and I need to make them today.
Yeah. So that's a really good point there, Mike. So this illustrates what I'm talking about and why I asked that question in the beginning of, when I'm working with customers of how are people describing the solution that they're looking for and stuff like that, right? Because when we as a business owner or media buyer or advertiser, when we start writing, we have a track in our own mind of what we want to say. All right. And that will color the words that we use. And usually there's like an educational piece that's coming to, it's influencing that thought process on how we're coming up with the words that we're going to say. And so we'll say things like generating revenue where it sounds amazing in our own head, right? Like, oh my God, this is totally how people are thinking about this. But no, it's actually only how you're thinking about it in that moment. And that's a really common example. And so by switching it to the way that they are actually because I've talked to tens of thousands of business owners now over the years, every single one of them, when they're talking about what they want leads and want sales. It's the exact words that come out of their mouth always, right? They never say, I need revenue. No one ever says that, right? So, and that's why when you switch, it works.
I've got a master's degree.
Yeah.
I've got a master's degree, Jason. Like, I should speak at the level that I'm educated.
Yeah, but that's another big mistake in writing. Yeah, and that's why if you, I teach people about using this thing called the Hemingway app, where it measures what's called the Flesch-Kincaid readability score, which has a grade level that it assigns to it. One of the secrets of oration is that the average human being reads and listens at a 5th grade level, no matter what their education is. Okay. And if you take any State of the Union address from any president and you plug it into this thing, it'll come out at 5th grade level or lower every time. Because all speechwriters know this stuff, and they actually use this because when you're talking to people, you need to talk clearly. The only way to talk clearly is to talk at lower grade levels. That doesn't mean you're dumbing things down. It just means you're not using extraneous language. Do you like how I used an example of that right there? You're not using extraneous language that can confuse people or bore people.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I use the Hemingway app all the time because, like, say, I outsmart myself way too often.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's going to happen now, like, just the world is getting so much easier, and like, say, one funnel away and 15-minute hacks, and now we've got AI and Chat GPT. Like, Chat can just write me a script now and I can just copy and paste. But Chat's not understanding the audience, I don't think.
No, I mean, it doesn't understand audience. So here's the thing about any software, and AI in particular, or I mean, so many things, including your body, right? Like, there's this phrase, it's called garbage in, garbage out, right? So the copy that you get out of Chat GPT is only going to be as good as the prompting that you put into the thing, right? So, and the vast majority of business owners that I talk to, they don't know dick really about their audience. That's why I got to ask them all these pointed questions to get out the truth. If I ask them, oh, tell me about your avatar, if they know anything about it, they're going to spit off a bunch of big level, generalized demographics, right?
Yeah, age, salary,
political. And usually they're off base with that stuff once we dive into who's really buying, because like we can validate these things, you know what I mean? It's funny, like, because like I'll work with a lot of big organizations where they got multiple departments, and I'll ask the owner about their avatar, and then they'll give me that kind of thing, and then I'll ask the guy that's doing the sales, hey dude, tell me about who's buying. And it's like, this guy, the owner told me that people that are buying are dudes, and the sales guy's like, nah, all the chicks are buying. You know what I mean? So like the how much the business owner really actually knows their customer is usually not a whole lot, and it's if they know it at all, which is which is shocking, right? So, when people start saying, yeah, I'll just use Chat GPT to figure it out. No, you won't, because you don't even know who you're going after to begin with. That's why your shit ain't working, right?
All right. So if you were to give one piece of advice for a business owner to really move the needle for sales, for revenue, what piece of advice would you give?
Yeah, actually spend the time to really get to understand your customer on a deep level. On the emotional level, because the things that they're going to tell you on the surface, that's not their emotional things, right? Like they're always going to say leads and sales. I need more leads and sales, right? Now, if anybody's been in selling, they've probably heard of the concept of probing down, right? And probing down is how you get to the emotional core. And you really need to keep doing this over and over again in your market to get to that emotional core, right? So when people say, I want leads and sales, you ask, well, why is that important to you? Why are leads and sales important to you? And they'll say, because I want more money. Well, why do you want more money? Well, more money is going to give me more time. Well, why do you need more time? Well, I'm coming up on this age. I've been working really hard. I'm actually getting tired and burnt out, and I want to spend more time with my family. Why do you want to spend more time with your family? Why is that important to you? Well, because when I was a kid, my dad wasn't home very much, and that made me feel this way. Bam, emotional core,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so you're going to find when you do this kind of probing that there's these general motivating emotions, right? So like when I went from the level of leads and sales down below that, it was money, right? And I said, well, why do you want more money? It's because I want freedom, right? And the reason I said that is because every business owner I've ever talked to, when I walk through that chain of questions, those are the exact same answers that they will give me. They say, I want leads and sales because I want money. They say leads and sales because if they say I want money, that's not socially acceptable. It makes them seem like they're greedy. So they use leads and sales to conceptualize money. And then you ask them, well, why do you want that? Then they have to reveal that it's because they want money, unless they're going to lie to you, right? Which again is not socially acceptable.
Yeah.
So I'm diving into the psychology behind this stuff, right? You got to understand these things if you want to be good at this shit, right? So the reason that then they'll say money, right? And then the only reason that people want money is because they know that money is the vehicle that gives them freedom. That's the only way that we can have true freedom in this life, to say, fuck you, I'm going to do whatever I want, is I've got enough money in the bank to do that. Everybody knows that, right? And at the end, anybody that's ever got into a business, they got into a business because they wanted freedom. And most of them end up just building themselves a job that has extreme amounts of stress, anxiety, and responsibility tied to it that you don't have with the job.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Cool. Let me just check my list of questions, but I think we nailed it all. I wish this was like a live call. I'm sure people would have.
Did I meander around the map enough there to bring it full circle?
No, yeah, exactly. We started there and we ended there. There we go. Okay, I think all that's left is you've clearly provided value. Clearly can help people, help businesses. If our listeners wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to?
Yeah, so I got this website that's academyofadvertising.com. And so, people can, contact me through there. They can learn about all the different ways that we can help people. And then if they're interested in, experiencing some of the trainings and stuff that I have, there's an option for people to get a free course on there. So they can, register for that, and they can, apply it to their campaigns, get results, and make some extra money, and then use some of that to hire me to work with them on a deeper level.
Cool. I came into your world a few years ago, and the first thing I found from you is that you tend to over deliver. I was like, holy smokes. Like, I can't believe I paid this little and got that much. That was the first thing I got from you. And the second thing I got is like, man, this guy's Like, you are, he's harsh. But the thing is I like harsh. I remember once I hired I live off the grid and I was going to get a wind turbine put up at my house. And so I hired this wind expert to come and give me the stats for whether we should have wind here or not. Anyway, we put the wind tower up and we get really good wind from the west, which is where you should come from. But we've got a hill in the northeast. Wind doesn't usually come from there, but that hill in the northeast causes eddies to form. So even when we have a good west wind, we didn't have a clean wind. Anyway, to shorten the story, so after, when it wasn't working, he's like, "Oh I expected that to happen." I'm like, "Well, why didn't you tell me that?" He's like, "You just hired me to tell me what you wanted to hear." What? No. I hired you to know whether I should put the wind turbine up. He thought I wanted a wind turbine. I wanted him to validate it, but he should have told me the truth, and I would have saved like $12,000. And so that's what I like about you, is that, like, if I show you my funnel page and it sucks, you're not going to pat me on the back, say, "Oh, good try, Mike." Right? You just said, "Well, it's not going to work, and these are the 3 reasons why." And I'm sorry.
I don't apologize for anything. Yeah.
No, like, this is what you're doing wrong. From my 20 years experience, I know what's going to work. You can either do it or not, but that's it, right? And that's there's not enough of that out there. Like, say, you're not a Hopi.
Well, I mean, like, that comes out of my childhood. My parents weren't around much, and if I needed anything, I needed to go make it for myself. I didn't need to make it happen. So I've never had, I didn't, participation trophies don't mean shit to me. The only thing that matters to me is winning. And I think that people are far too soft these days. You know what I mean? Like, all they want to do is have their feelings coddled. And at the end of the day, money could give a shit about your feelings. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about anybody's feelings. Like, I care about your results. And so, like, if what you show me is in my opinion, is gonna get you the results that you're expecting, then I'm gonna be like, hell yeah, this is awesome, right? Like, you don't see that a whole lot in my group, because there's not many people that actually put good stuff together right away. And I'll tell them, like, look, this is what's wrong, and I'll be blunt about it. I don't become harshly critical for no reason, right? But what I think you're getting at there, and I've kind of been explaining this a lot lately, is, because I like Tony Robbins a lot, right? And you've heard me curse a few times on here, and this is really where the harshness comes from, is because I'll use cursing like Tony Robbins does in order to pattern interrupt people, to jolt them out of the things that they've been doing that are keeping them from success, right? And a lot of times a lot of people will send things not because they intend on actually doing anything with it, but they're seeking approval. You know what I mean? And so, like, you got to do things like this to get people out of these bad patterns that are keeping them from getting the result that they want. Now, some people respond to it and then they get results. Others, they're like, oh, they can't handle it. Then they go off to somebody that's gonna, rub baby oil on their butt and tell them what they want to hear. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of massage parlors in the town you can get that from.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on my show, Jason. You're like the first formal guest I've had. So this is
I appreciate it, Mike. So I hope everyone got value. And again, if you want to, learn more and you're down with a insane clown like me, you can go to academyofadvertising.com.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the bio for sure.
All right. Appreciate it, Mike.
Again, Jason. See you next time. And that is a wrap for this episode of Because Business is Personal. Thanks for joining us. And don't forget to take advantage of my 2 special offers. First, you can get a free copy of my best-selling book, Empathic Marketing. You just pay for the shipping. Or you can get a 50% discount on my gap analysis session with the coupon code podcast. Just head over to www.becausebusinessispersonal.com or check the show notes for details. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to follow, subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with others who might benefit. Your support means the world to us, so stay tuned for our next episode where we'll continue to delve into the intersection of empathy and marketing strategy. Remember, because business is indeed personal, every connection counts. Until next time, see you then.